Wherever you go, the Jews have fallen out of the race in wanting to convert us. They have made the religion a racial religion. The only thing they want from us is to accept the rights to Palestine, that rob our brethren of that country of Palestine and give it to the Jews. They will be satisfied with us. They do not want to convert anybody into their faith. Their faith is now a racial religion. You have to be born a Jew to be a Jew. And in case you fall in love with a Jewish girl, and if she is particular, she wants you to be converted. So you'll have to go through all the processes, and eventually you are circumcised and converted, you'll still remain a third-grade Jew. They do not accept you. They want political recognition, that's all. But the Christian is foremost in wanting to change our people, to convert our people to his way of life. And in that there are more than 1,000 different churches and denominations. Each and every one is looking for converts. The majority of my brethren that I see before me here seem to hail from the Indo-Pakistan subcontinent, the undivided India. That's what I see. Now, the first experience we had of this challenge or this opposition was soon after the British conquest of India. When the British conquered India, they realized that at any time anybody will give them trouble, it will be the Muslims. Because power, rule, dominion was wrenched out of their hands, and they were a militant people. Sooner or later they will aspire to get power once more again. So if they can convert the Muslims, if they can change them to accept Christianity, teach them to turn the other cheek, as their Lord Jesus had told them, that if they strike you on the right cheek, give them the other. Teach the Indian people, the Indian Muslims, to turn the other cheek, then you can rule India for 1,000 years. From the Hindus of the time, they had no fear, because they were as docile, sheepish as the cows that they were worshipping. No fear from them. It was the Muslim who was a danger. So they went out on their mission into India of wanting to convert our people, the Muslims of India. And they started pouring in the missionaries into India like frogs in the rainy season. And they started challenging the Muslims to public debates. At first the Muslims were reluctant. These people had just conquered us. If we speak a bit too militantly, they might capture you and send you to the Andaman Islands, Kala Pani, black waters, like Robben Island in South Africa. Talk too much, Robben Island. Talk too much, Andaman Islands. You want to go there? No. So mum is the word, keep quiet. But now the missionaries, they started mastering our language. They learned Urdu, and they started challenging the Muslims to debates in Urdu. At first the alims had a good excuse that we don't know their language. Now they say, look, Maulana Sahib, they want to speak to us in our language. So the younger generation persuaded Maulana Abdul Aziz of Delhi to accept this challenge. And there was a reverend founder from Britain, an Englishman, a reverend founder who was taking a lead in this jihad against the Muslims of India. And a debate takes place in Delhi. And according to reports, I was reading in the Izharul Haq, a beautiful book which brought me to this position here. That book gave me the knowledge that brought me into confrontation with the Christians and to be able to start discussing and having dialogues with them. So in that book I'm reading that this debate takes place and 100,000 people gathered. I don't know how sound was carried on those days because there was no microphones and no loudspeakers. But perhaps people vicariously, from the distance they can see and they can hear something, and people pass it on and say, Mauli Sahib ne yu mara, and founder ne ye kaha, something like this, like that. They gave an uppercut, and everybody is satisfied. So the debate starts, with the reverend suggesting to the Maulana, said, Maulana Sahib, get started. In Urdu, get started. Shuru kijiye. So the Maulana responded that, you see, you are our elder brother. Christianity preceded Islam by 600 years. As such, you are 600 years our senior. And according to our culture, you have the first preference. Secondly, you are our guest. You are our guest. No doubt an unwelcome guest, but a guest at that. And according to our culture, you have the first preference. So the Reverend Founder was forced to start the debate. And he started with a question. It was all worked out. In Urdu, said, Maulana Sahib, respected Maulana, where is your Prophet Muhammad now, this moment? Where is he? So the Maulana thought for a moment, and he said that he is in Jannatul Firdaus, heavenly bliss with Allah Bari Ta'ala. Out of that answer came the second question. Said, all right, Maulana Sahib, tell us, where was he when his grandson Hussein was martyred at Karbala? Where was he then? See, the Maulana again thought for a moment, and he said he was still in Jannatul Firdaus, heavenly bliss with Allah Bari Ta'ala. Out of that answer came the third question. It was all worked out, prepared. Said, all right, tell us now, Maulana Sahib, that if your Prophet was with his Allah in heaven, when his grandson Hussein was being butchered, martyred at Karbala, didn't he ask his Allah for help? Ya Bari Ta'ala, look what they're doing to my grandchild, please help him out of his difficulty. Didn't he cry out for help to Allah? And there was a long pause. And the Reverend couldn't hold his peace. Says, come on, started banging his feet, come on. Didn't he ask his Allah for help? So the Maulana said, yes, he did. And so what did he say? What did Allah say? Because we know he wasn't help. What did he say? And there was an inordinate pause, an extra long pause. And again, the Reverend couldn't hold his peace, started stamping his feet, said, come on. He thought he had the kill. And the people also felt, कि Maulana ne mara diya. Maulana got us chopped off. Khatam kara diya hame. Says, come on. So the Maulana says that Allah cried. Allah ne ro diya. So what? Allah cried? He says, yes, Allah cried. He said, I couldn't save my own son Jesus. How can I save your grandson? And the debate was over. You see, it was only a matching of the wits. It has nothing to do with facts. This is one trying to be cleverer than the other. As the saying goes, that twice armed is he whose cause is just. If you are on the right path, your strength is double because you know you're fighting for your rights. Twice armed is he whose cause is just. But thrice armed is he who gets in first. Like our Jewish cousins every time. We go into battle in 48, the guy gave us a hand. 56, he gave us a knockout. 67, another knock. For the first time the Muslims took the initiative was in 1973. And again, with the help of America, the Jews were able to restrain us. See? But the guy is getting in first. So now you are in the right. But the guy gets in first. He knocks you out. So the Reverend was knocked out. The debate was over.